Yo, famous YouTuber Dark Matter 2525 DM proclaims that he doesn't know if a God exists, but knows the Abrahamic God does not exist, and so ridicules the Old Testament God's apparent contradictions and lack of logic. So I made a video which said that the Old Testament God did not represent my God. He saw my video and replied that I didn't know my own religion. That's false! I am extremely aware that the consensus of Christians regard the so-called Old Testament as God-authored and integral to Christianity, but I consider the consensus of Christians to be wrong. And since most professing Christians never read the entire Bible, while I have, among much other research, my viewpoints should supersede today's consensus. I favor an ideology termed positive Christianity, which relatively disregards the so-called Old Testament and has greater emphasis on science and natural law. Also, I know that the quote-unquote Old Testament contradicts New Testament Christian writings numerous times, both in word and in principle. Besides, the Old and New Testaments were completely separate. For 1,200 years, the so-called Old Testament is actually the Jewish Bible. Since Jews reject all Christian writings, why should Christians embrace theirs? Though Jesus relied heavily on the Jewish Bible, he was surrounded by Jewish culture. If surrounded by Asian or Greek culture, he would have quoted their literature instead. By seeing the Old Testament as man-made, we can gather some nuggets of truth from it while not being bogged down with its objectionable content. DM made a spot-on video titled If Heaven Really Existed, where he exposes the hypocrisy of most Protestant Christians who claim they will go to heaven immediately after they die. But nowhere does Scripture teach that we will go to heaven right after death, including so-called proof texts, Philippians 1:23 and 2 Corinthians 5:8, which people misunderstand. Heaven does not exist now, but will be created at the end of our world, maybe 1,000,000 years hence. DM exposes the fallacy of believing in an all-knowing, all-powerful, and all-present God without any exceptions. The non-biblical three omnis. DM exposes other fallacies of believers, but only refutes the distortions. DM points out that when most religious people say they speak for God and act in His name, they actually speak for themselves, act in their own name, and call their will God. However, DM is no better. He is another person who speaks and acts in his own name while never offering a solution to any of life's problems. Instead of finding the good in religion while throwing out the bad, he throws it all out. DM proclaims, I'm forced to put my faith into other human beings, and my faith is well placed. But if, for argument's sake, God does not exist, he would be neither harmful nor helpful. And most people who are helpful are only that way because they're getting paid. For example, if you ask all your acquaintances to help you move, only a small fraction will be willing to help. The rest will make excuses. And only 1 in 5 lost wallets are returned. So only 20% of people truly care about their fellow humans. The others are either thieves or too lazy to pick up a wallet. And videos have been made where someone pretends to be blind and tries to make change for a 10 pound or dollar note, but give 50 pounds or dollars instead. It was actually proven that half of people would actually steal from a blind man. That's who he's putting his faith in. And every human being has a negative impact on Earth since everyone partakes in using up valuable resources. DM then compares God to humans, saying God never put his foot on the moon. Yes, and God never did the hokey pokey. Who cares if men went to the moon? How does that improve my life any? Even a non-existent fairy tale would be less harmful overall than humans are. So DM's humanism is incredibly foolish and idiotic no matter what. Now, suppose there is a God. Then he would have created the moon, earth, and everything else. He would be the origin of all help. DM says, ask God to merely take away your garbage, then go ask your garbage man to do it. See who gets it done first. Since God created your liver, kidneys, and excretory system, he takes out the garbage first and does it every day. Think about it. And the garbage man only comes because he's getting paid. while your body's garbage removal systems function every day without pay. DM brings up the tired old argument that the problem of evil refutes the notion of God. To hear the other side of the argument on the internet, type problem of evil refuted and watch a video or read a text of your choosing. And it gets tiresome, his constantly making it seem like if there is a God, he must be either the Old Testament or Islamic God and no others, then refuting that false conclusion. DM never says anything nice about any religion, even relatively peaceful Buddhism or Taoism and all of that. All he does is magnify the failings of religion and completely ignores every fault of any anti-religious person. He is the ultimate card stacker. Also, DM is a deceiver. In one video, he says that he respects other people's religion. In another, he thanks moderate religious people for not being too extreme, suggesting that they are on the same team. But yet in another video, he says that 100% of religious people experience schizophrenia. He is a useless hate monger and arrogant bigot, and he has repeatedly teamed up with Jacqueline Glenn, who I expose in another video. I too embrace the theory of dark matter in space as I love science, but dark matter does not represent the sublime and mysterious energy source powering the physical universe. He represents the type of dark matter that is left behind in your toilet if you don't flush. So for answers to life's problems, see my other videos and my WordPress posts. Take care.